Hello, you wonderful people. So today, the first official trailer for Captain Marvel dropped, which got me super hyped. So basically I want to take this video to kind of, discuss obviously some of the stuff we saw and just kind of my thoughts on everything. So for one, it seems very interesting because once again, I don't know comic books and stuff like that, but I always kind of knew a little bit about Carol just from other stuff, video games and stuff here and there I've picked up. From other people talking about it, but like I knew about her being a pilot, but it still didn't occur to me. Like, I find it so interesting that, because I think in my head I was thinking like, okay, she started off on Earth and then somehow she went to space, which seems like what it might be implying in the movies. Because it seemed like for her it's like, because she comes back to Earth and she's like, well, she lands on Earth after a battle or whatever, and it's like, oh, I'm here, like, why do I feel like I've been here before? Like, why do I have these memories? So it's like, because that's the thing too, because it's like, when you look at it, like when you look at her as a pilot compared to who she is right now, it seems like she's roughly about the same age. So it's like, what is that time frame in between? Like, what's up with that? Like, it's so, because there's one point you see her kind of upside down. I mean, it seemed like that was like much later on in the movie potentially. So it's like, is her memory being messed with? Is someone doing that? Or what? Because it doesn't seem like it's necessarily a Peter Quill situation. Like, Peter grew up in space, like after being taken. So, but is it something similar? Like she was taken for whatever reason? Like, what is her whole ordeal? Because it seemed like she was just a normal person at first, but it's like, how do you go from being a normal person to being stuck in, going into space, being caught up in whatever situation she's caught up in, getting powers and stuff like that? Like, that's the big question. Like, kind of like, I think this trailer does a good job of just setting up the setting. It doesn't give you too much about the plot. I'm sure there's plenty of people who are a lot more well-versed in comic books. It's like, oh my god, this sets up this and that. I mean, the only thing I can really think of it really sets up, and it's something that's, kind of circulated a lot, was the whole Skrull situation. We see them a little bit in the trailer, but because the whole theory that people had running about the MCU is that Captain Marvel is going to reveal that, the movie is going to reveal that someone in the MCU this entire time has been a Skrull. The person in particular a lot of people have chosen, picked, was Nick Fury, which is interesting, which would be very interesting because it's like, this is before Nick Fury became, well, Nick Fury, at least the one that we know. So it's interesting. It could be a case of like, he gets killed in, Captain Marvel, and then like a Skrull replaces him, and maybe that's what the whole tie-in might end up being, that like she left him here to kind of be an informant or something. Like maybe something happens between her and the Skrulls that kind of led to like one of them being an ally or something, but maybe, or maybe it's just straight up Nick Fury. Because the interesting thing is, this is obviously before he lost his other eye and everything like that. So part of me wonders, is that supposed to be something like in itself too, like his missing eye, like in this continuity, could that be tied to some Skrull stuff? Is that supposed to be like a secret thing or something? Because that goes back to the question too, is like, why did he know to contact her in that particular situation after everything that's happened on Earth? Why did the events of Infinity War, people disappearing like crazy, made him decide, oh, now I gotta bring in Captain Marvel? It's a big question, because obviously it's like, obviously this is taking place in the 90s. We don't know, I don't think they specify when exactly, but obviously we're dealing with like 2 decades plus, so it's like, where has she been the entire time? It's a big question, because that's something I'm wondering about too. Does she not age? That's why I was wondering about that time frame between her being a pilot and her doing the whole Captain Marvel thing. It's like, does she not age at all? Or, like, what's up with that? Especially if this takes place in the 90s, I feel like she's going to look roughly the same. Because that was also another thing, too. Like, I don't know about her, because in my opinion, I put her on, like, that cosmic level of abilities. So I don't know, like, how, like, where she falls on, like, the power scale of, like, is she crazy powerful? Is she like, where she falls in all this? Like, how will she resolve Infinity War, Well, what role will she play in Avengers 4, Will she be like the end-all be-all? Will she be the problem solver in that situation, or what? Does she have any ties to the Infinity Stone? Because I remember seeing the set photos when like when Funhouse on Filmhouse was talking about it, and we do know that Ronan is in it, which we know he has a connection to Thanos. This is probably it was speculated like, oh yeah, this is before he started working with Thanos, and so that might kind of start getting in the circle, or at least the realm of introducing us, like, kind of retroactively going back in time and being like, oh yeah, this is where the Infinity Stone stuff really pops up. I mean, who knows, like, whether or not this will tie into Thanos or not, because I'm assuming this is like I said, like 20 years ago, so this is probably around the time he picked up Gamora, I would assume. So Probably a little more than that. Like I said, it all depends on like, because I also keep forgetting too. It's like the MCU timeline isn't what you typically would think it is, because the movies don't take place in actually the order that it came out. Don't even take place in the same years that it came out. Because some of the movies take place like maybe days, months, even weeks apart, you know, in some cases. So it's just kind of all over the place. So you never 100% know, you know. I'm also curious, can she just sense Skrulls in general? Because there's the old lady she's punching on the bus, so obviously she knows that's someone in disguise. But is that like a power thing, or is she just very intuitive and just like, I know you're not who you're claiming to be? That's the only thing I can assume about that situation. Going back to it, like, what role does Nick Fury have? Because it seems like he's like her, like when it comes to the Earth stuff, it seems like he's like her main ally. We even see Coulson pop up, which legitimately made me go, no, what? It makes sense, this is in the 90s, you could do that, but it still kind of caught me off guard, because it's like, that's the question too, like, why would you bring Coulson into this? Because I mean, that's also something, once again, you always got to keep in mind too, is like, let's not forget Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a thing. Interestingly enough, because I recently found this out, I had no idea, it turns out season 6 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be super short. It's like 13 episodes, so it's almost like half the typical season, and it's not coming back until like summer, I think I was reading. So like I said, that was like one thing I was reading, but I'm curious to see what role he plays in this, because it's like, why go back and do that? Like, maybe it's because, well, I guess because it's where Coulson's character is in the grand scheme of the MCU, where he is on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe this is kind of some like, because we're already doing like a send off to a lot of characters when it comes to Avengers 4. Maybe this is kind of setting him up to be potentially, like, you know, as I've said before, like in another video, like sunsetted, you know. So we'll see in the end what that ends up being. You know, whether it's supposed to be, like, the fact is they included it in the trailer makes me feel like it's going to be more than just a wink and a nod towards him. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. What's also interesting too, because we get a little bit look at, you know, the aesthetic of the movie. I mean, kind of like, it does kind of have like that Guardian / Thor aspect to it, of like, oh, being in space, or kind of a little otherworldly. We get like a peek at some planet she's on. She's staring out. I mean, not unless that's something that was kind of being implanted in her head in that particular scene. But obviously, once again, it's like, yeah, she's up in space and stuff like that. Because another question I have too is like, I don't know if the movies ever answer this, and do let me know, like, even after rewatching everything, I don't know if I really know where the Nova Corps stands in all this. I'm wondering, will they kind of pop up or not? Because we know they're tied into the whole Kree and Ronin situation. But like, the thing is, like, are the Nova Corps a space police group, or is that just kind of like a Xandar thing, or is that just kind of like Xandar's kind of like their main hub? Because they, like, at least from what we've seen in the MCU, they never really went beyond Xandar. At least I'm not sure. I don't think they did. That's why I was kind of like, isn't that just kind of like a Xandar thing? That's not like a space police thing. Because that's why I'm curious, like Captain Marvel and the group she's a part of, are they kind of like, you know, some like space police type of situation, like what's going on in her like in that regard? Which is interesting. A little side note, I find it funny, like recently I feel like going back, like anytime I brought up Xandar, like I would always say Kandor by accident, which, you know, is super messed up, because it's like Kandor is Krypton. It's a city on Krypton, and, you know, Superman, you know, in the DC comics. So I think I've made that mistake a couple of times, so just kind of, I feel like I have to point it out. But yeah, like, I'm curious, like, will that kind of play any role, especially because of the whole Ronin thing? And like I said, because there is memory shenanigans going on here, potentially with Captain Marvel, it does beg the question, like, could whoever the secret, like, Skrull that potentially is Nick Fury, could that be a role in that too? Like, could he be implanted with all the memories of the real Nick Fury, but he, you know, maybe it's like, you know, maybe like Carol is like, oh, like, you know, Nick was actually a really good dude, and this world needs someone to keep an eye out for. Because it's kind of an interesting thing too. Kind of, I didn't really talk about it. Was like, the fact of the matter is, when you go back to it, like, Thor was like, within the continuity of the MCU that was established at the time, it's like Thor was kind of the main reason why, like, the whole Chitauri attack, like, Fury was so ready for it, because he was already ready. He's like, he knew threats were going to come from the sky because of people like Thor and Loki, the Asgardians, so he knew it was going to coming eventually. But now in retrospect, it's like, now it's like retroactively you're being like, nope, like, it's because he came across something even further back that kind of set that off in his head, that like, oh, we need to be on the lookout from what's coming from above. At least that's why I feel like at that moment you call Captain Marvel. Like I said, at any point in time, why does that particular event set it off? Like I said, unless you know more, which that's always been Fury's thing. He apparently knows more than he ever lets on. Like, so maybe that Skrull angle could play a role in that. Like I said, he was kind of left there as a secret agent for her. Like, you know, it depends on where her and the Skrulls stand. I mean, the only Skrull I'm slightly, very slightly familiar with is the one that ends up absorbing the Fantastic Four's ability, which begs the question, is that going to play a role in this and all? Like, obviously, you know, there's the whole X-Men situation as well as the Fantastic Four, but obviously, like, that's not really getting brought in, at least at this point in time. So I'm wondering, do all Skrulls have that ability, or is it that one in particular that absorbs the Fantastic Four's ability? Is that a specific one? Because then he just referred to as the Super Skrull, so I have no idea. Because actually, was something else that had kind of circulated on the internet was kind of interesting. The big dude from Infinity War, one of Thanos' children, like, apparently if you look on his belt, you see cloth that's very similar to Captain Marvel's, meaning that they fought. So kind of heavily goes back and goes like, okay, so definitely they've crossed paths. Like, maybe it'll be in this movie, or maybe it'll be in between at some point in time. Like I said, there's like a 20+ year period of we don't know like what Carol's been up to, why she hasn't stepped in at any point in time. To be fair, this is the well, Infinity Stones have been in play for a while, but like, why not act at any point in time? I guess this is like the first time like anyone's actively like had all of them at one point in time, so it turns into a major big deal. And once again, it's also a question I brought up too when I thought about like all the people who survived Infinity War. Was she just one of the lucky people that wasn't affected by the snap, or was there something else in particular that saved her from the snap, you know? Like I said, like whatever her, like I said, I put her on the cosmic level, but I don't know if that's really where her powers lie and stuff like that. Because like I said, I kind of put her on the same level as like Doctor Strange, but in a different avenue where he's more magic cosmic stuff. Like she's more like cosmic. I know that doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of what's rolling through my head right now. So obviously this is just the first trailer. Like I said, obviously this is kind of a lot of setup. Like I'm sure the second trailer will kind of give us a bigger peek into the story. So, but either way, I'm very excited. We see that it says March 2019, no specific date yet, but obviously like that's quite a few months out, so it'll probably be another couple months before we get the next trailer. But I'm very excited because I'm super excited just because, like, you know, Brie Larson is amazing, super talented, and I'm so excited to see like what role this all plays in everything, especially as we're closing out this, I guess, arc of the MCU. So I'm curious to see like how that all plays going forward, especially considering the next movie after that is Avengers 4, like how that all ties in and plays out. So, but really that's all I want to talk about in this video. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good